I call Todd Muller.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I rise to just say a few words in support of the Arts Centre of Christchurch Trust Bill. May I first begin by acknowledging the very warm comments from Mr Mark on the other side of the House. Thank you very much, and of course part of the collegiality of Local Government Environment Select Committee is your ongoing constructive contribution to the debate that we have around the table. Look, we're here tonight to talk about the Arts Centre of Christchurch Trust Bill, and as we know, it is really essentially set up to establish the legal foundations for the Trust to effectively enable it to respond to the challenges and the tragedy of the Christchurch earthquake. And we've heard already far more eloquently than I could ever put words to the challenge that community, the Canterbury community, have had to confront, and the very special place that the Arts Centre has for the people of Canterbury, and how important it is for them that the improvements continue apace, and that there's a enduring legal framework that ensures what they want from those buildings will deliver for them and their grandchildren into the future. We had a great visit down there during the Select Committee process, and I acknowledge here the work of the Chair, Jean Crawford, the CEO, Andre Lovett, and in particular Andre, who helped facilitate that particular tour. We were donned our hard hats and walked around most of the 23 Category 1 heritage buildings, and were given a sense of what they were, what they became through the earthquake, but more critically, what the vision was for them as they are rebuilt, and to see, I guess, firsthand the purpose of this bill expressed in not so much bricks and mortar, but stone and fantastic application of skill, I think put this particular bill in context, and it certainly did for me. And as somebody who's a bit of a historian, I actually found it really enjoyable. Unfortunately, we couldn't get into all of the buildings, obviously, because of their either state of disrepair or where they were in terms of the repair process, but we did walk past the Student Union building and got a sense of why it still is important and needs to be and has been captured in this particular bill. It's already been mentioned tonight, the Ducks Deluxe. I went there once as a student. Had I known that I would have ended up here, I would have taken more attention to and see the names that are sort of scrolled on the wall. I probably would have seen sort of halfway up Megan was here, and then possibly just a little bit lower, and so was Ron. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Anyway, it was good to see, as I say, firsthand. However, moving back to the specific clauses, obviously there are a number here that we want to reflect on. I think it's right that we have removed Clause 8 from the bill. It is absolutely appropriate that debts accrued by the Trust Board would be adopted by the Crown should it ever be wound up. I mean, it's a sensible commercial amendment. We talked about it at the time, and I think we've got a sensible outcome there. In terms of the objects, again, I think adding new subclause 5.2, which requires all income, benefit or advantage received by or accruing to the Trust be used to advance the charitable purpose of the Trust. Again, this is a belts and braces approach. You could argue that perhaps it wasn't needed, but for the avoidance of doubt, the committee decided that we should put it in to make it absolutely clear around what should happen should that ever occur. Mr. Chairman, we recommend, of course, amending Clause 6. And I think, again, that makes a lot of sense. It's a sensible amendment to be considered. When we talked about trust vacancies, and obviously there was some debate through the submission process with respect to what happens when there is a vacancy on this new board, what the proper role for the Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage should be. And there was some debate and certainly some thought put forward by some of the submitters that we should be careful around the involvement. Mr. Chair.
I call Todd Muller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was some debate around. There's some debate. Sorry, do I need to repeat it? Sorry, there's.
Start again.
Mr. Chair, there is a particular issue here. There is a particular issue here that I would like to hear from the Minister, should she take a call later on. This was an area that we reflected on around the potential perception of a Minister being involved in influencing any appointments to the Trust Board. We made some changes. It's deleting clause 1D3 of Schedule 2 to enable that, and I think ultimately we've landed in the right place. And look, I do want to, now we're talking about governance, I do want to acknowledge the various stakeholders who have expressed their support for the intent of this bill, in particular the University of Canterbury, Christchurch City Council, Heritage New Zealand, Christchurch Civic Trust, Papatipu Runanga, amongst others. And I do acknowledge their contribution historically and their support for this move from a representative governance board to a skills-based governance board. But, Mr. Chairman, my view is that the task is only half done, because now it is incumbent, I think, on the community to ensure that the right mix of skills are appointed to govern this Trust Board into the future. And I guess if I have a challenge, it is to the community, is that they are global in their search. Too often in this country we are very, very keen to showcase our culture and our heritage in this context to the world, and we are often very proud in how others see our culture, and we're very global in terms of the portrayal of that. But sometimes quite reticent in terms of taking up the opportunities of those who have a global perspective back involved in governing our heritage. So I guess I put a challenge out there that, let's look beyond just Canterbury for the skill sets to be able to govern and support this Trust Board into the future, now that it is moved and will move to a skills-based board as opposed to a representative-based board that's there at the moment. We had quite a conversation, Mr. Chairman, around the land. It's already been raised, some of the issues that we discussed with respect to the titles and why that has historically been in such a high number of them. There was, of course, the reference to the stone buildings, and the chair of the Select Committee, Scott Simpson, has already put that question to the Minister, and I think that'll be worth hearing her perspective on as well. But certainly the recommendation was pretty clear that there is a tweak in the wording of Clause 4 to clarify that definition. And I think personally, as I read it, the word including provides the appropriate comfort for those who think that the focus is just simply on the stone buildings, and that would somehow mean that the Student Union building would be out of being included in terms of the long-term development of that site. And certainly, Mr. Chairman, when you go around that site and you listen to the people working on it and you listen to the community's favour which they hold that Student Union building in, I am pretty sure that it's going to be part of any ongoing development plan. But also having at the annual meeting the requirement to put that conservation plan on the table and have it in front of the community and those who are interested, essentially the strategy of conservation and what that will look like over time, I think is a good amendment. It ensures that the community of Canterbury stays plugged in to the vision of this new Trust Board and ensuring that ultimately those buildings and that incredible cultural asset continues to head in the direction that the community seeks. So finally, Mr. Chairman, can I acknowledge the Minister for her work. It must be incredible satisfaction to be part of a process which sees a framework in her community or an asset in her community being protected and enhanced as this bill will do. And I again acknowledge the Chairman and those who I've worked with on this committee. I echo Ron Mark. It is, for the most part, very collegial. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I commend this bill to the House.